Hello, Scribe and Quillers. This is Bev, also known as Mother of Crows. That's my new website, motherofcrows.com. Um, I am here to do a short video to talk about a few things that people tell you when you first start to write. I've got a cool filter on here. Look better with this filter on. So, anyway. Let's talk about a few things that you might hear if you're a new writer, or that you may have heard when you first started writing. I know I heard some of these things and then found out later that they really didn't apply to me. So number one, the first one is write what you know. You'll hear this all the time. You'll read it on websites, you'll read it in magazines, you'll hear people say it, you'll hear people repeat it on message boards. And let me tell you something. If I wrote only what I knew about, I would have not been a freelancer for 19 years. I just turned, celebrated a 19-year anniversary as a freelancer. Now, people may disagree with me, but I'm telling you, this is coming from my experience. Write what you know is not very good advice as far as I'm concerned. I'm a freelancer and I've written about a number of things. And for instance, I wrote about thoracic surgeons. Never been one, never going to be one. The good thing about, and like plenty of other things, the good thing about being able to write about a variety of subjects, number one, is you get more assignments. And number two, you don't have to write exactly what you know about every single time. I don't think it's very good advice. It hasn't served me, at least. So what you can do is, thanks to the internet, which is, back in the day you didn't have it quite so easy, but you writers today, starting out, I'm telling you, you got a lot of advantages. So throw out write what you know, because you've got tons of experts, tons of places, I don't know what the hell that was, that you can do research, to find out, fill in what you don't know. So write what you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's been rather useless for me. So that's my take on that. Number two, and you guys do this a lot, you new writers. I don't like the term aspiring writer. And as I've said before, I've never met an aspiring golfer, for instance. I've never met an aspiring gymnast. You either do it or you don't. You're a golfer, you're a gymnast, you're an equestrian, you're a writer. The only difference is there are levels to what you're doing. If you're brand new to writing, you're a novice writer. And get used to telling people when they ask you what you do. Say, yes, I'm a writer. I know it's difficult for new writers to say that, because they feel like, oh, who am I to call myself that? If you write, then you're a writer, plain and simple. And practice it, even if you have to look in the mirror and practice saying, I am a writer. So that way you get comfortable when you do run into situations where people ask you what you do. To me, there are no aspiring writers. You're either a writer or you're not. So drop the aspiring. If you write, period, you're a writer. Drop the aspiring. All it is from there is whether you're novice, intermediate, or professional. So there you go. Third thing, you'll hear this a lot: show, don't tell. Now, at the outset, you would think this is just excellent advice. And yes, I would rather have action in my books that I'm reading than just straight, boring narrative, where things are just, the author tells you things ad nauseum. However, show, don't tell, doesn't always apply 100%. For me, I've found, at least for me and for the books that I enjoy, I like um, books that not only show but also tell. But there's kind of like a balance there. So I would say don't just take show, don't tell as advice that, straightforward, there's nothing other than that. Always think about balance when you're writing. When it comes to, say, narrative or action, always think about balance. Too much narrative, it drags along, and you're telling people all this stuff. Sometimes it gets really descriptive, where you're explaining the thread count of tapestries, and the reader doesn't want to hear about that, so don't be a writer who does that. Also, if you have action or dialogue, it speeds things up for the reader, makes it like this. So after a while, the reader can get really breathless and really, geez, I need a little bit of a break here because everything's going so fast all the time. Show some balance with everything. Slow down too much dialogue with, and dialogue is great, but balance out the dialogue with the narration. And as well, when it comes to showing and telling, make sure to balance those out as well. A good book achieves the right balance in those elements, at least in my view. Now, here's the last thing. I have met people who have decided, for whatever reason, that they are going to write a book, and it's a lot easier than, it seems a lot easier than what it actually is. I mean, it sounds pretty easy. Just write a book. It's not that easy. Ask any writer, any author, especially one who does it for a living. And the interesting thing is, I'll run across people who they want to write books because, I want to be a Kindle billionaire and that sort of thing. Number one, that's the wrong track to take. That's, if you're looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, I think you'd probably have better chances if you were playing Powerball or the lottery. But I'll hear these people say, I ask them what kind of stories they like, what kind of books they read, and they'll tell me, oh, well, I don't read books. I was lucky enough to only have to read a couple when I was in high school, as if that's something to brag about. Well, I don't read books. I'm not much of a reader. Or they'll say, I don't know how to spell very well. I don't know anything about grammar. I sucked at that when I was in school. But I'm just going to write this book, and I'm not going to worry about formatting. I'm not going to worry about grammar. I'm not going to worry about spelling, because the editor will just take care of that for me. Number one, if you don't read books, you have no business writing a book at all until you have done your homework. And that means reading books, or reading, period. If you're going to write a book, say a mystery, then I would suggest you do your homework and read mystery books or mystery stories, whatever you're going to do. If you're going to write short stories or books, because it makes me wonder how somebody can brag about not reading books at all and then proceed to explain to me how they are going to write the next great American novel. Here's the thing, folks. If you plan on writing a book, you need to be a reader. Those things go hand in hand. If you haven't read for a while, it's time to get back into it. If you haven't read since high school, it's time for you to get back into reading books so that you can see what a book, especially one in the genre that you're looking at, the pacing, characterization, plot, what are common themes, plot devices, say, for instance, in mystery novels. You need to learn these things. It's just not simple enough to say, oh, I'm going to do, I'm going to write a book and who cares about, reading. I'm telling you, any successful writer has to be a successful and avid reader. It's called learning your craft. And if you don't do that, readers will know. And finally, please don't leave the spelling and grammar directly into the hands of your editor. Yes, editors work to make your manuscript better, your stories better, whatever you've written. However, it's very lazy and very, very disrespectful to just say, you know what, I don't need to learn how to brush up on my grammar or spelling because I'm just going to put it out there, and I don't care if the whole book manuscript is not in paragraphs. They'll fix that. And I'm not kidding. I've had several of those. Who does that? So, please, these things that I've mentioned to you, if you're a new writer or if you are getting ready to launch into the field, these are things that you need to think about, that you need to know, that you need to gain clarity on, because they're all important. And if you have any questions about any of this or any comments, feel free to drop a comment below, or you can email me through my website, motherofcrows.com. Make sure you visit Facebook and go by the Scribe and Quill group on there, which I'll put the address down here as well. And if you think of another subject that you would like me to address in future Scribe and Quill videos, let me know. I'm open to just about anything. If it has to do with reading, writing, and publishing, sure, let me know. Until next time, take care and enjoy the very end of summer. It's almost fall now. Enjoy yourself. It's getting, it's going to be fall pretty soon and then winter. So these are perfect times to really buckle down, study, and get to know your craft before you jump into writing a book. So, until next time, take care and thanks for joining me this evening.